All right, I'm gonna quickly try and get this carburetor running a little bit better, and then we're gonna call it a day, and I'm gonna take you guys to another Milwaukee dive bar to meet up with some friends later. So let's see here. I think that the low idle is out of adjustment and has been out of adjustment, even though from what I read on the internet, these really should have been factory set and you should never have changed that. But the assumption is that over a 50-year period, enough people have screwed with them that it's impossible to assume that the low idle screw is actually in the right place. So we're gonna start with the low idle screw and move on from there. I haven't been able to find any English language documentation on the particular carburetor. It's all in French, which I can do. You just use like Google Translate, which is amazing, but it adds an extra level of complexity to things, of course. You know, I'm actually starting to get kind of happy with how this is running. I think what fundamentally was going on here, at some point, somebody had basically set the low idle screw too low. And it's not even an adjustment that you were supposed to adjust according to the original Weber documentation. This is a Weber 2836 DDE, very special carburetor made only for Citroen. And people just screw with stuff and get it out of adjustment. You have 4 different adjustment screws on this carburetor, right? And really, only 2 of them should ever be adjusted, because fundamentally, the position of the throttle butterfly when you take your foot off the gas, however much is open, right? The retracted position of that, you know, throttle body butterfly physically shouldn't change. That's determining the amount of air that is allowed into the engine when you have your foot off the gas and you're at idle, right? Okay, why would that change? Well, it would change only if you have physical wear of the components, right? Like the little arm and the little adjustment screw touching against each other. You know, that's the only reason it would ever really change. And that is conceivable, that it's simply after a million times of bumping that little arm against the adjustment screw that it does change. But this right here, I'm feeling pretty good about that. And you know, when I was first driving the car, if you remember, you'd get that hesitation. You'd step on the gas and it would want to die on you, right? That's because it's like that initial flow of air that's coming when you just open that butterfly was kind of inconsistent. It's going from close, close, close. You know, it was way too closed. So somebody was compensating for that by like basically excessively choking it, right? You couldn't run it off choke because the low speed adjustment screw was set too close. So consequently, you were using the choke to set the low idle adjustment screw, you know? Now this car has another much more serious problem. Let me demonstrate it for you. So right now the car is idling at like 1200 RPM. Ideally, you would like the car to idle at more like 800 RPM. Let me slow it down. I don't know if you can see what's happening, but basically the suspension is sinking. And what that means, there's too much leakage in the suspension, right? So if we look right here, here's the accumulator, and here's the piston inside of here. This is your suspension going up and down. There's a seal on the piston rod in here at all four corners. And if you have too much oil, pressurized oil coming from that pump, which is pressurizing it, coming through all these lines, if it's leaking past the seal inside of this cylinder, well, basically you can't maintain enough pressure to keep the car at the appropriate ride height, which is what's happening here, is that the seals are suitably worn out to the point where you really can't run the idle exactly where you would want to, because otherwise the suspension starts sinking on you, and that you don't want that. So I think for the time being, we're gonna have to run the idle speed in that 1,000 to 1,200 area. Yeah, just like that. There you go. Hey, thank you for watching. Thank you for all of my subscribers that are creeping up day by day. And tell some friends. Thank you for subscribing. Peace out. Thank you for watching White Lithium Eurotrash.
So these hot tires.
That's kind of like, something to do. Yeah.